I am 26 years old, and for 3 years, I thought I had a happy marriage. Liam was my everything. He was the person I told all my secrets to, the one I planned my future with. We had a small apartment, but we were saving up for a house. We put money into a joint account every month. We called it our dream fund. It was a symbol of our shared life, our shared goals. Everything felt normal until it wasn't. It started on a Tuesday evening. Liam came home from work looking pale and distant. He barely touched the dinner I made. I asked him what was wrong. He just shook his head and stared at his plate. The silence in our small kitchen was heavy. It felt like a storm was gathering just outside our windows. I tried to make small talk. I told him about my day. I talked about a funny email I got at work. He didn't respond. He just pushed his food around with his fork. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I reached across the table and put my hand on his. "Liam, please talk to me," I said. "What is going on? You are scaring me." He pulled his hand away. He looked up at me, and his eyes were empty. It was like looking at a stranger. "I can't do this anymore, Sarah," he said. His voice was flat, without any emotion. My heart started beating fast. "Do what anymore?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" "This," he said, gesturing around the room. "Us. Our life. I feel trapped. I feel like I don't even know who I am." I was confused. We had been happy. Or at least I thought we had been. Trapped? "We have a good life, Liam. We love each other." He laughed, but it was a sad, bitter sound. "Do we? I don't know what I feel. I need space. I need to go away for a while and find myself." The phrase hung in the air between us. "Find yourself." I repeated. "What does that mean? Where would you go?" "I'll stay at my mom's," he said. "I just need some time alone. To think. To figure out what I want." Tears welled up in my eyes. I felt a wave of panic. Was he leaving me? Was this his way of ending our marriage? For how long? I whispered. "I don't know," he said, and he wouldn't look at me. "Please, Sarah. Don't make this harder than it already is. If you love me, you will give me this space." He was using my love for him against me. He was making me feel guilty for being scared and upset. I didn't know what to do. I loved him so much. I wanted him to be happy. If this was what he needed, how could I say no? So I nodded. I swallowed my tears and tried to be the supportive wife he wanted me to be. He went into our bedroom and packed a small duffel bag. He didn't take much. Just a few changes of clothes, his toothbrush, and his laptop. He moved like a ghost, silent and purposeful. I stood in the doorway, watching him, my heart breaking with every item he put in the bag. He was erasing himself from our home, from our life together. When he was done, he walked to the front door. He paused with his hand on the doorknob. He turned to look at me. For a moment, I thought he might change his mind. I thought he might see the pain on my face and stay. But he didn't. "I'll call you," he said. Then he opened the door and walked out. I listened to his footsteps go down the hallway. I heard the front door of the building close. And then there was only silence. I stood there for a long time, staring at the closed door. The life I knew had just ended, and I didn't even understand why. The next day was a blur. I called in sick to work. I couldn't face anyone. I wandered around our empty apartment, touching his things. His favorite coffee mug was still by the sink. His jacket was still hanging on the back of a chair. It was like he was still here, but he wasn't. The apartment felt cold and strange without him. I called my best friend, Jessica. She was the same age as me, and we had known each other since college. I told her everything through sobs. She listened patiently until I was finished. "He needs to find himself," she said. Her voice was sharp. "Sarah, that is the oldest line in the book. What does that even mean?" "I don't know," I cried. "He said he feels lost. He said he needs time alone." "Alone at his mommy's house?" Jessica scoffed. "That sounds convenient. Did he say anything else? Was there a fight?" "No," I said, wiping my eyes. Everything was fine. We were just eating dinner, and then he dropped this on me. It came out of nowhere. It never comes out of nowhere, she said firmly. There is something he is not telling you. Men don't just wake up one day and decide they need to find themselves. Something pushed him to this. I wanted to believe her, but I also wanted to believe in Liam. Maybe he's just depressed, I suggested. His mother, Eleanor, always says he's a sensitive soul. She says he gave up his dream of being a musician to get a stable job for me, for us. Jessica made a disgusted noise. Oh, please. His mother has never liked you. She has always tried to make you feel like you are holding him back. Do not listen to her. Liam is a grown man. He made his own choices. I knew she was right about Eleanor. My mother-in-law had a way of saying things that sounded sweet but were actually filled with criticism. She would compliment my cooking by saying, "This is so nice, dear. It's almost as good as the meals Liam is used to." She made me feel like I was never quite good enough for her perfect son. I just want him to come home, I whispered. I know you do, Jessica said, her voice softening. But you need to be careful, Sarah. You need to protect yourself. Something about this feels very wrong. We talked for a little longer and she made me promise to eat something and try to get some rest. I hung up the phone feeling a little better, but the knot of anxiety in my stomach was still there. I tried to believe that Liam was just confused. I told myself that he just needed a few days to clear his head, and then he would come back home to me. I clung to that hope because the alternative was too painful to consider. The second day was even harder. The silence in the apartment was deafening. Every little sound made me jump, thinking it was him coming back. I checked my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for him to call. He had promised he would call, but my phone remained silent. By the evening, I couldn't stand being in the apartment anymore. I felt like the walls were closing in on me. I decided to get some takeout. I didn't want to cook for one. I thought about our favorite Italian restaurant, La Trattoria. It was where we had our first date. It was where we celebrated our anniversaries. Maybe being there, even just to pick up food, would make me feel closer to him. I put on a coat and walked the few blocks to the restaurant. The evening was chilly. The streets were busy with people going about their lives. They all looked so normal, so happy. I felt like I was in a different world, a world where everything had fallen apart. I pushed open the heavy wooden door of the restaurant. The smell of garlic and tomatoes filled the air. It was a smell I associated with happiness, with love. But tonight, it just made my stomach clench. The place was crowded. Laughter and conversation buzzed all around me. I made my way to the counter at the back to place my order. As I waited, my eyes scanned the room. I saw families sharing pizzas. I saw couples holding hands over candlelit tables. And then I saw him. He was sitting at a small table in a cozy corner. Our corner. The table we always requested. He wasn't alone. A woman was sitting across from him. Her back was to me, but I could see her long, dark hair. Liam was leaning forward, a huge smile on his face. He was laughing at something she said. He looked happier than I had seen him in months. My blood ran cold. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Who was she? Why was he here with her? This was supposed to be our place. Then she turned her head slightly to sip her wine. I saw her profile, and my world shattered into a million tiny pieces. It was Chloe, a woman from his office. He had mentioned her a few times. He said she was a new hire, that he was helping to train her. He had called her a kid. They weren't just having a friendly dinner. He reached across the table and took her hand. He squeezed it gently. She smiled at him, a warm, intimate smile. They looked like a couple in love. A couple celebrating a new beginning. He wasn't at his mother's house finding himself. He was here in our restaurant with another woman. His words echoed in my head. I need space. I need to be alone. It was all a lie. A cruel, calculated lie. He didn't want to find himself. He had already found someone else. I felt a surge of nausea. I turned and stumbled out of the restaurant, gasping for air. I didn't want them to see me. I didn't want to cause a scene. Not yet. The cold night air hit my face, but I barely felt it. All I could feel was the icy grip of betrayal around my heart. I leaned against a wall, trying to catch my breath. The happy sounds from the restaurant seemed to mock me. My husband, the man I had built my life with, was a liar and a cheater. And I had been a fool. I had believed him. I had felt sorry for him. I had cried for him. As I stood there on that cold sidewalk, something inside me shifted. The hurt was still there, a raw, gaping wound. But a new feeling was starting to grow alongside it. It was anger, a cold, hard anger that burned away my tears. He had not only broken my heart, he had insulted my intelligence. He had made me a pawn in his sordid little game. I walked home, my mind racing. The shock was wearing off, replaced by a chilling clarity. Jessica was right. It never comes out of nowhere. This wasn't a sudden crisis. This was a plan. A plan that I had been completely blind to. I got back to our apartment, but it didn't feel like ours anymore. It felt like a stage set for a play where I had been the unsuspecting main character. I walked into the bedroom and looked at the empty space in the closet where his clothes used to be.
It was all a lie.
Every "I love you," every shared dream, every promise for the future. I sat down at my laptop. My hands were shaking, but my mind was sharp. If he was going to lie, I was going to find the truth. I opened our shared mobile phone account online. My heart pounded as I typed in the password. I clicked on the call history. There it was. A number I didn't recognize, listed over and over again. Dozens of calls. Some were during the day, but many were late at night. Long calls, an hour or more.
And texts. Hundreds of them.
The activity went back for weeks, even months. I did a quick search for the number online. The name that came up was Chloe Anderson, the kid from his office, the woman in the restaurant. The proof was right there in front of me, in black and white. While I was sleeping next to him, he was texting her. While I was making him dinner, he was calling her. I felt a fresh wave of sickness. How could I have been so blind? Were there signs I missed? I thought back over the past few months. He had been working late more often. He had been more secretive with his phone. He had been distant, emotionally unavailable. I had chalked it up to stress from work. I had tried to be more supportive, to give him space when he seemed to need it. But all along, he wasn't stressed. He was busy with his new life. My anger grew hotter. This wasn't just a simple affair. This was a deep, calculated betrayal. He had laid the groundwork for his exit, making sure I would be sympathetic and compliant. He had used my love and trust as a weapon against me. I decided to call him. I needed to hear his voice. I needed to hear him lie to me one more time. I took a deep breath and dialed his number. He answered on the third ring. "Sarah," he said. He sounded surprised, almost annoyed. "Hi," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I was just calling to see how you are. You said you would call." There was a pause. I could hear faint music in the background. Restaurant music.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
"It's been a rough couple of days," he said. "Just a lot of thinking." "Thinking?" I repeated. "Are you at your mom's? Is she helping you?" "Yeah, I'm at my mom's," he lied smoothly. "And no, I'm mostly just keeping to myself. I told you, I need to be alone." The ease with which he lied was staggering. He was sitting in a restaurant with his mistress, telling me he was alone at his mother's house. "Are you sure you're alone, Liam?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "It sounds like there's music in the background." He hesitated for a second. "Oh, my mom just has the radio on. You know how she is," another lie, piled on top of the first. "Look, Sarah, I can't really talk right now. This whole thing is really hard on me." "Hard on you?" I almost laughed. "I'm sure it is. All that soul-searching must be exhausting." "It is," he said, completely missing my sarcasm. "I'll call you in a few days, okay? I just need more time." "Take all the time you need, Liam," I said, and my voice was like ice. "You'll be hearing from me soon." I hung up before he could respond. I stared at the phone in my hand. The man I had married was gone. In his place was a monster, a stranger who could lie to my face without a flicker of guilt. My next call was to his mother, Eleanor.
I wanted to see what she would say.
She answered the phone with her usual syrupy, sweet voice. Sarah, dear. How are you holding up? She asked, her voice dripping with fake concern. I'm managing, Eleanor, I said. I was just calling to check on Liam. Is he there with you? Oh, yes, the poor boy is here, she said with a dramatic sigh. He's just so lost right now. He's been in his room mostly, just thinking. He barely comes out for meals. My heart just breaks for him. Her words were so perfectly rehearsed. She was covering for him. She was part of the lie. Did she know about Chloe? Or was she just happy to have her son back under her roof, away from me? At that moment, it didn't matter. She was his enabler. Well, could you do me a favor? I asked, my voice hardening. Could you ask him to call me? It's important. Of course, dear, she said. But don't pressure him. He needs his space. Men are not like us, you know. They need to retreat into their caves sometimes. I felt a surge of rage at her condescending tone. I'm not pressuring him, Eleanor, I said. I just need to speak with my husband. Please have him call me. I ended the call. So his mother was in on it. She was providing his alibi. The betrayal was deeper and wider than I had imagined. It wasn't just Liam against me. It was them against me. I sat in the dark for a long time, the evidence I had gathered swirling in my mind. The phone records. The lies from both Liam and his mother. The image of him and Chloe holding hands in our special place. It all painted a very clear picture. The grief was still there, a heavy weight in my chest. But the anger was a fire that was starting to burn away the pain. They thought I was a fool. They thought I was weak. They thought I would just sit here and cry and wait for him to decide what he wanted. They were wrong. I was not going to be a victim in the story. I was not going to let them destroy me and get away with it. He wanted space? I was going to give him more space than he could ever imagine. And I was going to make sure he paid for every single lie. The game was on, and I was going to win. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of purpose. The tears were gone. The shock had faded. In its place was a cold resolve. I needed more than just call logs. I needed concrete, undeniable proof of the full extent of his betrayal. My first thought was our finances. Our dream fund. With a sense of dread, I logged into our joint bank account. My eyes scanned the transaction history. My breath caught in my throat. I saw it immediately. A single, massive transfer. It was for nearly the entire balance of our savings account. The money we had worked so hard for, the money for our future house, was gone. The transfer was made 2 days ago. The same day Liam left. The recipient was a property management company. I didn't recognize the name. I quickly searched for it online. It was a company that managed luxury apartment buildings downtown. My hands started to shake again, but this time it was with rage. He hadn't just cheated on me. He had stolen from me. He had stolen our future to build a new one with her. The audacity of it was breathtaking. He had packed his little duffel bag, played the part of the tortured soul, all while he was systematically robbing me blind. I dug deeper. I looked up the address of the property management company. It was for a new high-rise building called The Pinnacle. I looked at the building's website. It was full of pictures of sleek, modern apartments with floor-to-ceiling windows and stunning city views. The rent prices were astronomical. He wasn't staying with his mother. He was living in a luxury apartment with Chloe, funded by my money. The space he needed wasn't for soul-searching. It was a 2-bedroom apartment with a balcony and a concierge. I felt a dizzying mix of fury and disgust. This was premeditated. This was a conspiracy. He and Chloe had planned this for months. They had waited until we had enough saved up, and then they had made their move. And his mother had helped them. She had provided the cover story, the safe space for him to launch his new life from. I had to get confirmation. I needed to know for sure that he was living there. I couldn't just call and ask. I had to be clever. I thought for a moment, and then an idea came to me. It was a long shot, but it was worth a try. I called the main number for the Pinnacle. A cheerful voice answered. The Pinnacle Residences. How can I help you? I disguised my voice, making it a little higher and more professional. Hi, I'm calling from City Floral Delivery. I have a delivery for a new resident, a Mr. Liam Thompson. I'm having trouble with the apartment number on the order. Can you confirm which unit he's in? There was a pause and the sound of typing. "One moment, please," the woman said.
My heart was pounding in my chest.
"Please let this work," I prayed. "Yes, I see him here," she said. "He's in apartment 15B. Great. Thank you so much for your help," I said, my voice dripping with false cheerfulness. I hung up the phone. 15B, it was real. He was there, living a brand new life with her on my dime. The confirmation sent a jolt of ice through my veins. The betrayal was absolute. It was financial, emotional, and total. I spent the rest of the day in a haze of cold fury. I gathered my evidence. I printed out the bank statement showing the transfer. I took screenshots of the phone records. I wrote down the address of his new apartment. I was building a case. I wasn't just a heartbroken wife anymore. I was an investigator. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in our bed, the bed we had shared for 3 years, and stared at the ceiling. The memories of our life together played in my mind, but now they were all tainted. Every happy moment was now suspect. Was he thinking of her then? Was he planning his escape even as he held me and told me he loved me? The pain was immense, a physical ache in my chest. But beneath the pain, my resolve hardened into steel. He had underestimated me. He and his mother and his mistress, they all saw me as a quiet, compliant, gentle person. A doormat. They thought I would just accept his ridiculous story and wait patiently for him to come back. They had no idea who I really was. They had started a war.
They just didn't know it yet.
I decided my next move had to be strategic. I couldn't confront him directly. He would just lie more. I couldn't confront Eleanor. She would just play the victim and defend her precious son. I needed to find a weak link in their chain of lies. I needed to talk to someone who might still have a conscience. My thoughts turned to Liam's sister, Olivia. She was a few years younger than him. She had always been kind to me. Unlike her mother, Olivia was down to earth and practical. She wasn't close to Eleanor and often rolled her eyes at her mother's dramatics. She and Liam were not particularly close, but they were still family. Maybe, just maybe, she didn't know the full story. I decided to call her. I would not accuse Liam of anything. I would play the part of the worried, confused wife. I would plant a seed of doubt. I called her the next afternoon. "Olivia? It's Sarah," I said. "Sarah."
"Hi. How are you?" she said.
She sounded genuinely happy to hear from me, which made me feel a pang of guilt for what I was about to do. But I pushed it down. This was necessary. "I'm okay," I said, letting my voice tremble a little. "Well, not really. I'm sure you've heard that Liam is staying with your mom for a bit." "Yeah, Mom told me," she said, her voice softening with sympathy. "She said he's going through a tough time."
"I'm so sorry, Sarah."
"Is there anything I can do?" "I don't know," I said, and I let out a small, convincing sob. "I'm just so worried about him. He's not acting like himself. And something strange has happened." "What is it?" she asked, her concern growing.
"It's our bank account," I said.
"Our savings account for the house. Almost all the money is gone. There was a huge transfer made the day he left."
"I'm scared, Olivia."
"I'm scared he's in some kind of trouble. Maybe he has a gambling problem or something. He wouldn't tell me. He would be too ashamed." I let the suggestion hang in the air. I was giving her a plausible, less scandalous explanation for the missing money. One that would make her worry about her brother's well-being, not his morals. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "What?" "All the money," Olivia finally said. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said. I printed the statement. It was transferred to some property company. "I just don't understand it. He wouldn't just take our money. Something must be wrong." "Oh my God, Sarah," she said. "That's not like him. Not at all. I'll talk to him. I'll go over to Mom's tonight and find out what's going on. Don't you worry. I'll get to the bottom of this. And I won't tell him you told me. I'll just say I was checking in on him. Thank you, Olivia, I said, my voice full of fake gratitude. You're a good friend. We hung up, and I felt a small flicker of triumph. The plan was in motion. I had just sent a Trojan horse into the enemy camp. Olivia was honest and straightforward. She would not be easily fooled by Liam's lies, especially if they were as flimsy as the ones he had told me. She would demand a real answer. And whatever he told her, it would be another piece of the puzzle for me. Now, all I had to do was wait. The waiting was the hardest part. I tried to keep myself busy. I cleaned the apartment from top to bottom, scrubbing away every trace of him. I packed up his belongings that he had left behind. I put them all in boxes and stacked them in the corner of the living room. It was a symbolic act. I was clearing him out of my space, out of my life. Every time the phone rang, my heart leaped into my throat. I was a bundle of nerves. Part of me was terrified of what Olivia might find out. Another part of me was desperate to know. I needed the truth, no matter how ugly it was. Finally, late that night, my phone buzzed. It was a call from Olivia. I took a deep, steadying breath and answered. Sarah? Her voice was tight with emotion. She sounded angry and flustered. Olivia, what is it? I asked, my own voice tense. Did you talk to him? I did, she said, and I could hear the disgust in her voice. I went over to Mom's, but he wasn't there. Mom tried to cover for him, said he went for a long drive. But I knew she was lying. I called him, and he finally answered. I asked him about the money. What did he say? I asked, holding my breath. He told me it was an investment, Olivia said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. A big opportunity he couldn't pass up. He said he was going to surprise you with the profits. He told me not to worry you with the details. The lie was so pathetic, so transparent. An investment. He really thought we were all that stupid. I didn't believe him for a second, Olivia continued, her voice rising in anger. I pushed him. I told him he was acting strangely and that he was scaring us. I asked him why he was lying about where he was. He got all defensive and angry. Did he admit where he was? I asked.
No.
But he said something else. Something really weird, Olivia said. He was yelling at me, telling me to mind my own business. And then he said, I'm finally doing what I need to do to secure a future for my real family. The words hit me like a physical blow. His real family. That meant me, his wife of 3 years, was not his real family. His real family was Chloe, the woman he was building a new life with, using our money. Oh, Sarah, Olivia said, her voice breaking.
I am so sorry.
I don't know what is going on with him, but it's not good. He's not the brother I grew up with. And Mom. She's just making excuses for him. She told me I was being dramatic and that I should just support my brother. It's not your fault, Olivia, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. The cold anger had returned, pushing away the pain. Thank you for telling me. You have no idea how much this helps. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm going to take care of myself, I said. And I'm going to make sure he doesn't get away with this. We ended the call, and I sat in the silence of my apartment. His real family. The phrase echoed in my mind, a cruel confirmation of everything I already knew. He had replaced me. He had discarded me like a piece of trash. The last shred of doubt, the tiny, foolish hope that this was all a misunderstanding, vanished. He had made his choice. He had chosen her. He had chosen to lie, to steal, and to betray. And now I was going to make my own choices. I was no longer his wife. I was his adversary. And I would not rest until I had taken back everything he had stolen from me and more. My sadness had finally burned itself out, leaving behind a core of pure, unadulterated resolve. He thought he had started a new life. I was about to show him that he had just ended his. A few hours later, as I was trying to force myself to sleep, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. My first instinct was to ignore it. It was probably just spam. But something made me look. The message contained only a single image. It was a screenshot of a text conversation. My eyes widened, as I read the words. It was a conversation between Liam and Chloe. Chloe, I can't wait until this is all over and we can just be together. Is everything set with the apartment? Liam, everything is set. I move my stuff in tomorrow. I just have to get through the big talk with Sarah tonight. Chloe, are you worried she'll make a scene?
Liam, nah.
I'll just feed her the "I need to find myself" line.
She'll buy it.
She's too trusting. Chloe, good. Soon you'll be free, and we can start our life. Did you get the money for our place? Liam, done. Transferred it this morning. The ball and chain won't even notice for a week. By then, it'll be too late. I read the messages over and over again. Each word was a fresh stab in my heart. The ball and chain. That's what I was to him. An obstacle. A burden. Someone to be managed and deceived. He wasn't just indifferent to my pain. He was contemptuous of me. He mocked my trust. He saw my love as a weakness to be exploited. The screenshot was the final piece of the puzzle. The key artifact. It was undeniable proof of his premeditated plan. It laid out the entire conspiracy in his own cruel words. There was no ambiguity, no room for excuses. This was the weapon I needed. I had no idea who sent it to me. A friend? A co-worker of theirs who knew what was going on and felt sorry for me? It didn't matter. It was a gift. A gift of pure, unadulterated truth. I saved the screenshot. I backed it up to my computer and emailed it to myself. This was my leverage. This was the evidence that would bring his whole house of cards crashing down. I finally understood the full truth. This wasn't just an affair that had gotten out of hand. This was a cold, calculated plot to defraud me. They had planned it together, every step of the way. The fake emotional crisis, the move to his mother's house, the draining of our savings account. It was all part of their script. And Eleanor. She was more than just an enabler. She was an active participant. She had provided the alibi that allowed him to move in with his mistress without raising my suspicions. She had lied for him, covered for him, and encouraged him. She had always wanted me out of the picture, and she had finally gotten her wish. Or so she thought. A strange calm settled over me. I finally had everything I needed. The bank statements, the phone records, Olivia's testimony about his real family, and now the text messages. I held all the cards. My mind started working, formulating a new plan. A plan for confrontation. But a private confrontation wouldn't be enough. He had privately betrayed me, but he had done it in a way that would allow him to publicly control the narrative. He would play the victim, the confused husband who just needed space. He would make me look like the unreasonable, clingy wife who drove him away.
No.
That was not going to happen. The humiliation he had planned for me was going to be his. I was going to expose him. I was going to do it publicly, in front of the people whose opinions he cared about the most. I was going to do it in front of his family. I thought about the perfect stage for this confrontation. And then I remembered. Eleanor's annual family dinner. It was a big, formal affair that she hosted every year. It was her chance to show off her perfect family, her successful son, her beautiful home. It was the highlight of her social calendar. And it was next weekend. I knew Liam would be there. He would have to be. He wouldn't dare miss it. He would probably use it as an opportunity to cement his story, to get his family's sympathy. He would sit at the head of the table, looking sad and thoughtful, while his mother doted on him. It was perfect. It was a stage designed for maximum impact. I would not let them control this story. I would walk into their perfect family gathering, and I would burn it all to the ground with the truth. The week leading up to the dinner was the longest week of my life. I went through the motions of my daily routine, but my mind was constantly planning, rehearsing. I spoke to Jessica every day. She was my rock, my strategic advisor. "Are you sure you want to do this, Sarah?" she asked me. "It's going to be incredibly painful." "The pain is already there, Jess," I told her. "At least this way, there will be justice. I can't let him get away with telling everyone that I'm the problem. I can't let him paint himself as the victim." "You're right," she said. "You go in there, and you take back your power." What's your plan? We talked it through. I would not go in angry or crying. That's what they would expect. That would allow them to dismiss me as hysterical. I would be calm. I would be composed. I would be armed with facts. I would let the evidence speak for itself. I also made another important call. I contacted a divorce lawyer. I had an initial consultation and laid out all the evidence I had gathered. The lawyer was impressed. This is an unusually clear case of dissipation of marital assets, she told me. The text messages are damning. They establish clear intent to defraud. You are in a very strong position, Sarah. Her words gave me another surge of confidence.
I was not just acting on emotion.
I was acting on solid legal ground. I instructed her to have the divorce papers drafted and ready. I would have them served to Liam the day after the dinner. The day of the dinner party arrived. I spent the afternoon getting ready. I chose my outfit carefully. A simple, elegant black dress. It was professional and serious. I did my hair and makeup with precision. I wanted to look strong, not broken. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. Her eyes were hard, but they were clear. The naive, trusting girl was gone forever. I drove to Eleanor's house. It was a large, imposing house in a wealthy suburb. The kind of house that was meant to project an image of success and stability. As I walked up the driveway, I could see the lights on inside. I could hear the murmur of conversation and laughter. My heart started to pound. For a moment, I felt a wave of fear. Could I really do this? Could I face all of them? Then I thought of his words. The ball and chain, the thought solidified my resolve. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. The door was opened by Eleanor. Her face was a mask of surprise and displeasure when she saw me. "Sarah," she exclaimed, her voice tight. I didn't expect you to come." "Why not, Eleanor?" I asked, my voice cool and even. I walked past her into the house. "I'm still family, aren't I?" I could feel her staring at my back. The living room was filled with Liam's extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. They all turned to look at me. The chatter died down. I could feel their curiosity, their pity. They had all heard Liam's side of the story. Then I saw him. He was standing by the fireplace, a drink in his hand. He was talking to his father. When he saw me, his face went pale. He looked like he had seen a ghost. I just gave him a small, cold smile and walked over to greet his sister. "Olivia, it's good to see you," I said. She gave me a quick, worried hug. "Are you okay?" she whispered. "I will be," I whispered back. Dinner was a tense affair. I was seated across the table from Liam. He refused to meet my eyes. He stared at his plate, pushing his food around, just like he had done on the night he left. Eleanor tried to keep up a stream of cheerful conversation, but the tension in the room was palpable. Finally, during a lull in the conversation, Liam's father, a stern, quiet man named Robert, cleared his throat.
"Liam," he said.
"Your mother tells me you're going through a difficult time. We're all very concerned about you." This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. Liam looked up, a pained expression carefully arranged on his face. He was about to launch into his performance. "It's true," he said, his voice heavy with fake emotion. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About my life, my path. I got lost. I needed to step back and find myself again." He looked around the table, seeking sympathy. Several of his aunts nodded understandingly. Eleanor looked at him with tears in her eyes. I decided to make my move. I placed my fork down gently on my plate. The small sound seemed to echo in the silent room. "I'm so glad you've been doing a lot of thinking, Liam," I said, my voice clear and steady. Every eye at the table turned to me. "Because I have been doing a lot of thinking, too." Liam's eyes finally met mine. They were filled with alarm. "I was thinking about our future," I continued, keeping my gaze locked on his. "And I was thinking about our joint savings account. The one for our house." The color drained from his face. "What about it?" he stammered. "Well, I was just a little confused," I said, my voice deceptively sweet. I was wondering what kind of soul-searching requires a person to drain their entire life savings. A gasp went around the table. Eleanor shot me a look of pure venom. Sarah, this is hardly the time or the place for a discussion about finances, she snapped. I ignored her completely. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was the bank statement. I placed it on the table. I'm sure it was just for a very important investment. Right, Liam? I said, letting the sarcasm drip from my words. Like, for example, the security deposit and first month's rent on a luxury 2-bedroom apartment at the Pinnacle? Apartment 15B, I believe. Liam looked like he was about to be sick. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His father, Robert, picked up the bank statement and stared at it, his face growing dark with anger. But even that didn't make sense to me. I went on, my voice growing stronger. Why would you need a new apartment when you were staying with your mother? And then, a kind person sent me something that cleared everything up. I pulled out my phone. I opened the image of the text messages. I turned the screen so everyone could see it. Then I began to read the messages aloud. Soon you'll be free, and we can start our life. Did you get the money for our place? I read Chloe's words. Then, I looked directly at Liam, my eyes burning into his. I read his reply, my voice ringing with disgust.
Done.
Transferred it this morning. The ball and chain won't even notice for a week. A collective gasp of horror filled the room. The silence that followed was absolute. Liam was completely exposed. His carefully constructed image as the sensitive, lost soul was shattered. In its place was the ugly truth. He was a thief, a liar, and a cheat. He stared at me, his face a mixture of shock, rage, and utter humiliation. He had never imagined I was capable of this. He had underestimated me completely. Eleanor finally found her voice. How dare you, she shrieked at me. How dare you come into my home and tell these lies about my son? Lies, I said, and I laughed a cold, humorless sound. Are these lies, Liam? Or is this your real family you were telling Olivia about? Olivia flinched, and her face hardened. She looked at her brother with utter contempt. Liam's father, Robert, stood up. His face was thunderous. He looked at his son, his voice dangerously low. Liam, is this true? Liam just sat there, frozen, unable to speak. His silence was his confession. You stole from your wife, Robert demanded, his voice rising. You dishonored this family with your lies and your deceit. Eleanor tried to intervene again. Robert, he was unhappy. She pushed him to it. Be quiet, Eleanor, Robert snapped, turning on her. You have coddled him his entire life. You have made excuses for him. This is the result. This is the man you have raised. Eleanor shrank back in her chair, silenced. The family members who had been looking at me with pity were now staring at Liam and his mother with disgust. Their perfect family dinner was in ruins. Their perfect son was exposed as a fraud. I stood up. I had done what I came to do. I will be filing for divorce tomorrow, Liam, I said, my voice calm and final. My lawyer will be in touch about getting my half of our savings back. I suggest you cooperate. I looked around the table one last time, at the shocked faces of his family. Then I turned and walked out of the house. I didn't look back. As I closed the door behind me, I could hear the shouting start. The perfect family was imploding. And I was finally free. The drive home was quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't feel sad. I felt light. A massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The truth was out. I had taken back the narrative. I had taken back my power. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The next day, as promised, Liam was served with divorce papers at his new apartment. According to Olivia, who called me to apologize profusely for her brother's behavior, the scene at the dinner party was only the beginning. Robert was a man of old-fashioned principles. He was mortified by the public shame his son had brought upon the family. He gave Liam an ultimatum: pay me back every single cent he had stolen, or be cut off from the family completely, both personally and financially. Liam's job was at a company owned by his father's friend, a position he had gotten through family connections. That connection was now a liability. Panicked and with no other options, Liam was forced to agree. He had to break the lease on the luxury apartment, losing the massive deposit. He had to sell his car, the one he was so proud of. He had to drain his own personal accounts. It still wasn't enough. He was forced to move back into his childhood bedroom at his mother's house, completely humiliated and broke. Chloe, the other woman, did not stick around for the fallout. The anonymous person who had sent me the screenshot apparently also sent it to a few key people at their office. The story of their affair and their scheme to defraud me spread like wildfire. They became the office pariahs. Chloe, unable to handle the constant whispering and dirty looks, quit her job within 2 weeks. Olivia told me she broke up with Liam shortly after, telling him she didn't sign up for all this drama. Apparently, a broke, disgraced man living with his mother was not the future she had envisioned. I, on the other hand, was moving on. The divorce was quick and uncontested. Liam didn't dare fight me on anything. I got my half of the savings back, every penny. I found a new apartment, a small, sunny place that was all mine. It was the first time I had ever lived alone, and I found that I loved it. I loved the quiet. I loved the freedom. Jessica came over to help me unpack. We ordered pizza and drank cheap champagne out of coffee mugs to celebrate my new life. "I am so incredibly proud of you," she said, raising her mug in a toast. "You were a warrior. You went into the lion's den, and you came out with the lion's head." I laughed. "It doesn't feel like that. It just feels
Right.
I feel like myself again. Or maybe for the first time." "That's because you are," she said. "You got rid of the person who was making you small." You should have seen the look on his face in the pictures Olivia sent. Olivia had indeed sent me a few photos from a family event a month after the dinner. Liam looked miserable, gaunt, and defeated. He was a shadow of the arrogant man who had told me he needed space. Seeing it didn't give me pleasure, exactly. It just gave me a sense of closure. His actions had consequences, and he was finally facing them. A few weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but I did. It was Eleanor. "I just wanted to say," she began, her voice cold and bitter, "that I hope you're happy. You have ruined my son's life." I was silent for a moment, not with shock, but with a sense of finality. She still didn't get it. She never would. "No, Eleanor," I said, my voice calm and devoid of emotion. "Liam ruined his own life. He made his choices.
And you helped him.
You taught him that he never had to be accountable for his actions. Well, now he is. This is the world you built for him. I hope you enjoy it." I hung up the phone before she could reply. Then I blocked her number. I blocked Liam's number. I blocked every single one of his family members, except for Olivia. I was done. That chapter of my life was officially over. My new life was quiet, but it was peaceful. I focused on my work. I reconnected with old friends. I started taking a pottery class on weekends, something I had always wanted to do, but never had time for. I was rediscovering who I was without Liam. I was finding myself. It was ironic, really. He was the one who left to find himself, but in the end, his journey led him right back to his childhood bedroom, a place of arrested development. My journey, the one he forced upon me, led me to true independence. One evening, about 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was walking home from my pottery class, carrying a lopsided bowl I had made. I was happy, genuinely happy. As I rounded the corner to my street, I saw him. Liam. He was just standing there, across the street from my new building, watching. He looked terrible. He had lost weight. His clothes were rumpled. He looked lost. When he saw me, he took a step forward, as if to cross the street. I just stopped and looked at him. I felt nothing.
No anger, no sadness, no pity.
Just nothing. He was a stranger to me now, a ghost from a past life. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I simply turned my key in the lock of my building's front door, walked inside, and shut it firmly behind me. I didn't look back to see if he was still there. It didn't matter. He had wanted space. He had wanted to find himself. In the end, I was the one who got the space. And I had finally found myself. I found a strength I never knew I had. I learned that I could survive betrayal and come out stronger on the other side. I learned that my peace was more valuable than any relationship. He thought the ball and chain was me, but the real ball and chain was his own weakness, his own deceit, and the enabling mother who had kept him a child. He was still chained to his past. I was free, and I was never going to let anyone take that freedom from me ever again.